quel canal de distribution privilégier pour se développer à l'international? Nos invités répondront à quelques questions à la toute fin, juste avant la pause. So please, don't be shy. Et oui, on va maintenant basculer en anglais, puisque l'un de nos invités vient de Corée. Ils sont prêts? Ils sont là? On va pouvoir y aller. So ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our guests. Vous pouvez prendre le micro. Thank you to be here. Emilie RIBEREAU-GAYON, CHANTELLE's Executive VP, International E-commerce and Retail. Yann CHARETON, HARTFORD CEO, and Tae HYUNG KIM, Global CEO. Welcome to Paris.
Thank you.
So we're going to start with you, Emilie and Yann. Can you just introduce your brand in the international market?
Hello everyone, so I'm Emilie from CHANTELLE. CHANTELLE is a family business. We're selling lingerie, bras and panties. It's a very old company, 150-year-old story, but the main brand from the portfolio is of course CHANTELLE, and it dates back from the 50s. CHANTELLE is a very international brand. More than 85% of our sales is outside France, and we're sold, our main market is the US, second Germany, third France, and these three countries only stands for a little bit less than 50% of the total sales of the group. And we can talk about it later, but we're sold in 65 countries, different countries. And depending on the country, we have very different distribution strategies.
Okay, same question for you, Yann.
Thank you, Anissa. My name is Yann CHARETON. I represent HARTFORD. HARTFORD is a French ready-to-wear brand. So we sell clothing to men, women, and kids, mainly through three channels. The first one is wholesale. We also do ecommerce and retail. And of course, for us, international is very important. It's now 65% of our activity, and we sell in about 30 countries, mainly through wholesale. And our key markets are the US and Western Europe.
Okay, good. So Tae, thank you to be my international guest today. Can you please introduce your company?
Yes, so Eland Global is a part of Eland Group. Eland Group is a South Korean conglomerate. We started in fashion. Our founder and our chairman started the company 43 years ago in a small retail shop. And then he grew the business to about, we're expecting to do about 8 billion this year, 80% of which is in South Korea, and then we have 20% in China. At our peak, when relationship with China was very good, we went up to 7,000 stores. Right now, we're at 4,000. Eland Global is a part of Eland Retail. Retail is our biggest business. So I'm happy to be here today to talk about the distribution models. We have experience in buying brands, getting the license from them, and also distributing. We've made great successful cases. We've also made very bad mistakes. So I hope we can talk about both the good and the bad and what the pitfalls are today. Thank you.
Yes, so you're actually here in Paris to meet French brands.
Yes.
It's definitely the good place. You're going to have a meeting later with Yann. So can you explain why do you like French brands and how they make the difference?
I think the question is should be why, who wouldn't like any French brand? So personally for me, so being South Korean, we are at a very important stage in our development path where we used to be one of the poorest countries in the world. With a lot of help and a lot of hard work, we've been able to catch up. Our traditional model has been to learn what others have done well and then to replicate that model, a lot of it from Japan also. We're entering a stage in our development where that is not enough anymore, and we need to set our bars higher. And that is where French brands come in. We have enormous respect for authenticity and originality, which, to be quite honest, even though I'm Korean and I'm very proud to be Korean, because of the educational or the environment that we grew up was so fast-paced, perhaps trying to get the depth of the originality was a bit lacking in the past. And I think this is where European and French brands can really help us, and we help the brands here because we understand the markets better. We understand the development cycles that other Asian countries, Southeast Asian countries will enter into. So we can try to, we understand the markets better, but perhaps, in terms of artistic value or creativity, that's something that we would love to learn from the French brands. So I think there's a big chance for a win-win, which is why I'm here and meeting with you today.
Very good, maybe a reaction about what he said about the French originality, French experience.
If I take the example of the lingerie market, to be honest, most of the fine lingerie brands in the world come from France. We have very strong brands. Chantelle is one of the biggest, but we're not alone, so I could not agree more. When I took over the international relationships with some customers at Chantelle Group, I was really surprised to see that in some very far away countries, like for instance Taiwan, you travel and you go to department stores and the main brands are from France. It's really curious to see that French brands have a very special place in top doors all around the world.
Yeah, I can only concur with what Tae said. It's true that when you travel, you hear a lot about French brands and all the savoir-faire they carry. So it's something you can hear in the US, in Asia, of course, but basically everywhere. So couldn't agree more.
What I would love to add also is that, it's very complex to develop great products. And it's true that collections after collections, you get better. And that's also a strength from French brands. Some of us are really old companies, and so we have a lot of experience building products, and that sometimes make the difference.
Next question for you, Emilie and Yann. Can you talk about your international experience? You can share your tips, the good, the bad experiences. You can take your time and talk about the country one by one. This is very precious for the audience.
I think, it really depends on the stage of development of each company. Chantelle, as I told you, has already a really long history in selling internationally. So if I take our current priorities, which is growing in Asia, for instance, I would not advise this for a very young brand because you have very much more efficient ways to build your sales in much more closer countries, and with more a distribution that is closer to what we know in Europe. There are many different countries, so I don't know by which we can start, but if I compare two countries, very different from the group, for the group, the US, and I know HARTFORD is also very strong in the US. For Chantelle, the US is really a department store market, so we're selling in department stores. Our biggest customer is Nordstrom, and to grow in the US, we had to understand two things. First, Chantelle brand is really different. The image of the brand is really different in the US. We're a product brand. We're not an image brand. So we take one product, we make it the best from the competition, and we convince one buyer to add only one product to the Chantelle corner in the department store, and by only adding one product, we grow a lot. And we take this product and we make it better and better and better to take market shares in the department store. This is my first advice for the US. And yes, the second one, which is closely linked, is we had to adapt the offer to the US. So we created special sizes, and now this is the only market for now for which we create special product. And the second country, which is very different, I would take an Asian country, China.
Yes.
It's fully online.
Can you explain?
We don't sell offline. We just sell on Tmall and on Little Red Book. It's a 3-year, 4-year market for us. We're still very young, so we build it as a startup. The main risk is to spend a lot of money without any ROI. So, I mean, we're a family business, so we don't have tons of money, and we make it very carefully. So maybe we could grow faster, but we take it really step by step. And now that we feel that in maybe 1 or 2 years we will have reached a threshold, and after this threshold of, I would say, 5 million euros sell out in China, we will spend more money. But before that, we take it very slow. And maybe we will need to adapt the offer.
That's your turn, Yann.
So for us, basically our entry strategy in the market is very simple. We test and we learn. We're a small business. We're a family-owned business. So for us, it's very important to test the market with kind of not limited but controlled investment. So we figured our way to test and learn would be wholesale first. It's basically what we do in every market now. So we quickly try to open a few doors, a few retailers in a market, and then from there we try to expand and create, build a local presence. So how do we build a local presence? It would be mainly through trade shows. So we try to go to trade shows every season and consistently be there. And this way we can quickly meet some local people, and our second step will be, of course, to find local people to represent the brand in the market. So we really start from there, and then once the market is a bit more mature, then we open a dedicated website on our e-commerce, and we continue with dedicated acquisition strategy online. But it would be, for us, wholesale first every time, and then e-commerce, and then one day retail, but we're not there yet. So basically, yeah, wholesale first. It's what we did for the US, for instance. So in the US, what we did was that we first opened a few retailers from the trade shows in Paris, so local buyers that came to Paris to find brands. But quickly we figured out that this would not be sufficient. Not all buyers travel to Paris. So we figured out we had to go there and be there in the trade shows to kind of seem local. So we expanded from there, being in the local trade shows, and we got opportunities to meet with agents there. So we contracted with an agent quite quickly. And from there, it really changed our business there, because we were able to open many doors quickly, and also build a relationship with strategic wholesale partners. And it's really, strategic wholesale partners is really the kind of accounts you want to find. Why? Because they will act as a booster for your brand in a market. It's easy to open a few doors, but finding the retailers that will provide you with exposure, credibility, it's much more difficult. And yet, this is quite the key to succeed in the market. So my advice would be to first get a foot in the market, try to be local and add presence to the market, and then try to team with strategic partners to further expand the business in the country.
Okay, thank you, Yann. Tae, that's
Yes.
your turn, please. Can you give more information and maybe advices about the Korean's market?
First, before I jump into that question, I would like to just quickly comment
course.
on the. I couldn't agree more with each of you. Like Emily said, the importance of having an iconic product, right? I think a lot of the times, because you understand your brands, it's very hard, or you might miss the point that nobody else does in that market at that time. Nobody will understand the story at that time. You have to give them a reason to look into the story. And one of the best ways, I think, is to have a product that really captures the imagination, and then the press will follow, and then marketing will follow. I think that's a really more efficient way of entering the business. So I couldn't agree with you more on that point. And then also finding a right partner, as Yann said, is there's a lot of partners. And I might get into trouble for saying this, but they will pitch a very, very good picture, rosy picture. There's no way you can fail. Everything is going to be great. And then COVID hits. There's a lot of things that we can't predict. And so taking a slow, low, maybe low return, but also low risk in the beginning will help you maintain your cash arsenal to up to a point where you are very confident that you can deploy it and it will return, I guess, the results that you intend, right? So finding the right partner later on is still completely, perfectly fine, I think, in that sense. And
Okay, good.
Yeah. Yep.
Maybe a reaction before to talk about the Korea? It's okay? So let's start.
Okay, so Korea, it's kind of strange because I'm Korean, but I spent a third of my life in Korea, a third in the US, and a third in Japan and Shanghai. So I consider myself more Asian than of course I'm Korean, but I am also very everything. I'm a global. I live on Earth. That's how I put it. Korea. It's a very unique time, as I said before, because we're entering two key points, I think, is growth. Economic growth is going to be very slow going forward. There's no other country that we've looked at that at this GDP, from this GDP per capita level, it continues to increase, but with wealth concentrating at the top. So 80% to 90% of the population will continue to live at the GDP per capita levels for the next 20 years. That's first. So don't let the average going up deceive you on how you need to position your brands. Number two is we have the lowest birth rate in the world is 0.78 per female. That means 0.78 per couple, which means that so in the next 5 years, we're very strong in the children's wear market. We are very aware of the fact that in the next 5 years, there's going to be 1.5 million children less in the market. So these are, and then with aging, Korean females will have the longest life expectancy at around 93, I think, average, in the next 10 years. So very healthy women getting older, very few babies being born in the future. So putting these, and then GDP growth stagnating. So it's very difficult. I hate to say this, but if you are a children's wear brand, this is probably not a market where you want to bet on. If you are a females wear brand where you're more positioned to target the older generation, or if you're trying to reposition yourself in that category, it's a very good market. Number three, with the influence of K-pop and K-drama, obviously we're becoming a hub for cultural exportation to other, not only Asian countries, but also Latin America, etc. So about I think it's 3 years ago, I was very surprised and happy to hear when the New York Times moved this Asia APAC headquarters from Hong Kong to Seoul. And I think that had a really strong signaling effect to other companies to move into Korea. Right now, when I walk in the streets of Seoul, it's very, very common to see other foreigners. We're much more international, and we'll continue to keep up with that trend. Because of our low birth rate, we have to find talent elsewhere. And that's not just talking for blue collar, but also very senior positions as well. So there are huge opportunities. To sum it up, I think there's huge opportunities for certain brands, but there's also very deep pitfalls for other categories as well. So you really, as much as I would like to welcome you and paint a rosy picture, and if you enter Korea with us especially, it'll be great and everything will go well, that would be a complete lie, no matter how confident we are, because of these headwinds and tailwinds. So, but having said that, there are companies in Korea, not just us, but there are also very large retailers that are very interested in French and European brands in general. So it is, I don't want to be too negative on this point. There are very good partners out there. If you find the right one, it would be very helpful for you.
So just quickly, in Korea, so you have K-pop to talk about the music industry, and now you talk about the K-fashion too?
Yes, so right now we call it 삼마, like 삼 as in three, and ma as in, it starts with ma. Maten Kim, Marte François Joba, and then Marnie. These are the three iconic, you can't get enough of them. So I think last year, Marte François Joba was, I'm ruining the pronunciation by the way, but it went from almost zero to about 40 million US dollars instantly in 1 year with just a few styles. They were able to catch the trend rapidly and they're expanding rapidly. What these have in common is a sense of design that was previously by the Korean customers maybe overseen. So that's what I talk about when the French brands have more heritage. It's I asked a friend once why they love why French wine is the best, and sorry to the Italians. But rather than him saying, oh, because we're French and everything in France is best, he said, it's because the French have a history of growing wine where they understand the varietals and the soil and the human capability, so they're able to find the best match. And I think that goes very well with fashion as well. And for K-fashion, it has been an important trend, perhaps for the past 10 years. I think we're still not there yet. The environments of which these brands, and not to say that they didn't work hard or they were less successful, but the environment was very good during the past 10 years in terms of economic trends. The real test will come in the next 5 to 10 years when I don't think anybody paints a rosy picture for the global economy and us also being affected by it. But the real test will come then during the next 10 years. And I'm very looking forward. We are a country that thrives when things go bad. And so I'm very excited to see how our brands, Korean brands, navigate through these difficult times. But the point, it is about, the appreciation for aesthetics for the general population has increased significantly in the past 10 years. And so that's why details really matter these days. And the brands that are able to pinpoint those and understand what their strengths are in that aspect are probably going to be the ones that do really well in these difficult times ahead.
Okay, thank you. So now we're going to talk about the social media. How do you use it for the international business?
Okay, so first, I'm totally in line with Yann. It's much more efficient. I mean, it has been much more efficient for us to start a new country offline and then to invest online, because online investments can be really costly. And to emerge as a brand is can cost a lot. So social media, for most of the countries, we have we deal with it centrally, and for some of very specific countries like the US and Asia, we have localized the social media to create more adapted contents to the market. And for some even more far away country, social media is now a business, especially in Asia. We have an Indonesian customer. She started only selling via Instagram. I mean, there were only 2 in their team, and I mean, very quickly they built a 500,000 business only selling Chantelle bras and panties. So that was quite fun for us to see. And second step, now they're opening stores. So this is very specific. But for most of the countries, I would say that, of course, social is very important. But that would be a lie to say that is, at least for Chantelle, a direct source of business. It's more building the image. But for some specific countries like Indonesia, Taiwan, we're coming to it. We're also present in Korea and China. We now have a fully social media approach.
Some question for you about social media.
So social media is not our specialty at Hartford, but the way we see it is more, I mean, we don't build a market with social media, and as I said before, the way we see it is we try to build through physical retail, and now, for example, in the US, what we do is, now that the market is, we consider it mature for us, we can start having an acquisition strategy on the social media, but it's kind of new for us, so I don't have much to share, but what I heard from the study before is of course that it's something that should not be neglected for brands, and I'm sure you know, it's often very easy to cut these budgets first. But I'm sure successful brands in the next few years will be the ones that tackle this correctly.
I would say that maybe Hartford and Chantelle are very traditional brands. I mean, with a long history. We're very different from the 2 brands that we discussed about earlier on today. So, of course, the strategy is different. What I would like to say is that it might not sound so sexy to go and see independent stores and sell your product, but it's profitable. And you need profitability to recruit younger customers via social media, etc., etc. So I would say that in the past 10 years at Chantelle, we pushed a lot e-commerce, and it's now stands maybe it stands up for 25% of total sales. So it's good, but we're now focusing more and more also on more traditional business to bring profitability and to push the image on new markets, because it costs quite a lot.
Okay, good. Maybe a reaction about social media?
About social media, my take is to try to not interfere with what the younger generation are doing. I think that there's a tendency to brush it off or reduce budgets. And we're like, oh, I don't understand it, so it must be not so important, but that is completely not the case. Half the times when I look at social media, I don't understand what they're saying, but I look at the views, and that's what's important. That the people that they're targeting are viewing the content. So in Korea right now, there's apparently younger generation have a difficult time. There's a parody on this, on speaking on the phone. So there's a parody about how to receive a phone call or how to order food using your phone, because they're so used to online chatbots and etc. So they live in a different social environment where I looked at people and they're like, oh, they're on their phones all the time. No, that's just the way they communicate. Because they are the first generation that experienced this, it's very difficult to predict where they will take it because we've never experienced that. But it will be a core way of communicating your message to they're now teens and 20s, but they will be 30s and 40s 10 years down the line. So it's not a subject that you can ever take lightly, or if you might cease to exist or matter in the next 10 years if you do so. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Do you have question here for my wonderful guest? We have one question here. Thank you. The microphone is coming. Yes.
Good morning. Simon Burstein. I have a question for you, for Tae. You said you were very enthusiastic about French brands. How important is it for these French brands to be made in France?
I think that would depend on the product and the message that product delivers. If the value that product brings is made in France or made through some French attributes, then it is, I think, very important for it to be made in France or at least in Europe. But consumers are also about value, and I think it's hard to reach a price point where consumers expect prices to be. And so I think you need to understand, I think it's important to focus your attention on certain products to be made in France, while others, perhaps the less essentials, could be produced elsewhere.
Okay, thank you. Any question here? One question here, please. Thank you.
I have a question regarding Korea. Do you consider it's possible now in Korea to develop a brand without department stores?
To create one, yes. A lot of the brands that are strong these days were not created. Were created either online or through pop-ups or not through non-traditional ways. But for Korea specifically, there is a certain level of population density that requires, that enables heavy traffic footage. And so one instance, it's not a French brand and it's not fashion, but for instance, Five Guys burgers just opened and the wait time is 5 hours. It's unbelievable, but that will bring you media exposure. And so being in the right department stores will matter at a certain point in the brand's life, journey in Korea. But to answer your question, is it important to start in department stores? Probably not. Yep.
Yes, I have one question. What do you think in Asia about the limited collection, like a special collection, when, for example, you find an influencer or like a personality will launch inside the shop a special collection with a limited number of products towards the retail industry, online industry?
I think it's a very, collaborations is a very big thing these days. And I think just talking specifically about the Korean market, The younger and older, I guess all of us, going back to the Five Guys, the reason why there's a line is because you want to be seen there. FOMO, fear of missing out, is very true and very big. So I think collaborations or limited editions help you achieve that goal where you're aiming for the mass with the limited number, and we call it open runs. And there are stores where people line up. It's like buying a concert ticket. They will just line up because there's a limited 99 number of collections. There's just cookie or snack that came out, and for 100 days it was Pokemon collaboration. You failed as a mother if you were not able to get that for your kids. And being a retailer, it was, the shops opens at 10. I go to work at 7, and there's moms are just lining in miles and miles for 100 days. Fear of missing out, because you don't want your kids to miss out, and you have to get that Pokemon bread. It's very real, and it can be an enormous home run in terms of marketing efforts.
Thank you. We still have 5 minutes. Another question.
Good morning. How far is the luxury clientele ready to give its trust to luxury brands which are not the big ones, newcomers? And where would they buy?
Okay, in Korea. Thank you.
Honestly, I'm not an expert in luxury, so I please take my comment with a huge ton of salt. I think if you have a story, it's possible. But the story has to be very well put together with the right personality behind it. There are brands. So there has been cases where I guess smaller brands had a big marketing drive, very well put, and it flashed and then it died. So the Five Guys, the lines won't last for more than 3 months. If you have a story to continue, you need a round 2 and a round 3. You need a consistent hit of efforts, of waves of efforts to make it, to be able to deepen your roots in the market. It's not an easy market when it comes to. Luxury had a hard time this year, with the exception of 2 brands. And so there's very steep highs and very deep lows. Again, I'm not an expert in luxury, but it's it would have to be very well orchestrated for smaller brands. Is my take on the subject.
Maybe a last question. It's going to be the last. Thank you.
One question for Emilie, and probably also for Mr. Kim, but at the same time. You told about the US, saying that you had to create some specific products, which is quite logical for lingerie and for bras mainly. Don't you think that that would be the same in Asia if you really want to expand? Entering countries like Korea would oblige you to create those specific products too?
For sure. We had the chance at Chantelle to develop a one-size lingerie line. And this one-size lingerie line called Soft Stretch, which is a great bestseller, is actually the only product we're currently selling in Asia. Traditional corsetry was like very specific sizes, we don't sell it because it's too complex and the fit is not adapted. So now we're working on a special project where we actually pick a KOL and we develop a short collection, corsetry collection, with also adapted pricing. This is a topic we did not discuss, but one of my advice would be sometimes to really adapt your prices to local markets, either lowering your margin, either increasing a lot your margin. In some countries, we're selling our products much more expensive price than in Europe. And so we adapt the prices because there is a very strong competition in Asia with brands coming from Asia, which are great brands, building great products. And they're like, if we want to compete with them, we want to go on we want to develop very technical products that we will be better at building, and adjusted pricing for Asia with the help of our KOL. And that's the tricky part because we will discuss the choice of the right partner. We could also discuss the choice of the right KOL, which is tricky. And this is the balance between product, price, and communication person you will pick for your strategy. But for China, we start to see very positive sign with this specific strategy.
I think it's a great idea and a strategy. It touches upon we're all human beings at the end of the day, consumer, producer, likewise. Especially for the Korean market or the Asian market, I think if you can deliver a message where you tell them or the consumer feels that you care about them. I mean, this is very general, but having a line tailored to the market is an indication of that effort, which is why it cuts so deep into it. But again, yeah, you have to have the right medium of delivery for that as well, because a lot of times you might have a right product with the wrong message, or the wrong message, right message with the wrong product. So it's a tricky thing to do, but it's a very wise, I think, and effective strategy if you pull it right. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. We have, can we have a last question maybe? We still have time. Okay. One question here. Thank you.
My question concerns mostly the customer experience in Korea, because when you see the brands, the Korean brands developing, we not talk about the product anymore. We talk about more about what's in stores, such as Error, Gentle Monster. They are very specific and growing up brands in Korea and internationally. How come French brands coming to Korea will bring such experience? What would be interesting for the Korean market then, in terms of customers' experience?
I think the situation is a little different from Gentle Monster because it's of Korean origin. There's a lot of things that you don't have to explain if you're Gentle Monster. And the concept is very well put, but I think going back to having a successful product, they were very successful because they had the right product. And that, in return brings margins, and margins allow you to invest. I think a lot of the times what we get wrong as, we own brands, so we make this mistake a lot of times as well, is we focus too much on the concept and less on the product. And that's not something that you can afford to, you have to get the two in the right order. But if you're a French concept, so for one, my first brand was French. It was Tatine Chocolat. That was my first brand that I operated. So I'm very fond of French brands. But going back to the mood, I think what made it, and I did it in China, and the big mistake that I realized that we were making is the mood that they created in France was very effective, which translates into the products and to the seasons. But because of the different complexion, the skin color, if you put it on Chinese babies, it doesn't look, the products should make the customer look good, not the other way around, right? And so I asked my designer, don't make me beautiful products, make me products that make the customers beautiful. And that was really a transition for us where we were able to maintain the mood, but adapt the product to bring revenue and traffic. So in terms of adapting the mood, I think you guys do a great job anyway. It's really, that's not the area where you lack. That's something that, you know, it's you're well ahead of other markets and other brands in terms of that. But the difficult part is actually adjusting the product to fit the local markets. I think that's a much bigger homework for the brands that are of European origin.
Thank you. Time is over. On peut remercier nos 3 invités.